Andrew Abbott has shoulder soreness. Or excuse me, not Andrew Abbott. Brandon Williamson. Which leads me into the next topic of conversation here before we get into some NFL talk, is that if Brandon Williamson isn't viewed upon, in my opinion, the same as Andrew Abbott, the question I have is, what are we doing? Why? Is it just because Andrew Abbott had a good run at the beginning of his starts and perception is reality, or first impressions matter? Because it seems like we just gloss over the back half of what Andrew Abbott did. We also decide that, okay, well, maybe Andrew Abbott was just tired. And all of those things can be very, very true. But how come Andrew Abbott gets a little bit of a pass, but Brandon Williamson doesn't? Somehow now it's this whole, is it Andrew Abbott or is it Brandon Williamson? And you're going to hear people that obviously follow this club that are going to say, how in the world could you possibly leave Andrew Abbott off the starting rotation? Well, he hasn't thrown the ball that well this spring. And again, I know it's spring training. But I do think spring training is good for one thing. It's good for guys that are on the back end of their careers. And I think it's good for guys that are on the front end of their careers. Because ultimately, those guys they have something to play for. Josh Harrison had something to play for. Tony Kemp got hit straight in the face. He didn't come out of the game. If that was Matt McClain when we were there, and Matt McClain got smoked in the face the way that Tony Kemp got smoked in the face, guess what? Matt McClain is not playing. But Tony Kemp is. Why? Because Tony Kemp has something to play for. He's trying to make the team. That's the whole point of spring training, in my opinion, is it's the guys that are coming up, it's the guys that are going away. Can you stick around, or do you belong? And I just wonder now, does it matter? I think it doesn't. I genuinely don't think it matters. I think that ultimately, over the course of 162 games, you're going to find out who you are, and you're going to find out, what you might have had if they would have maybe played more. But the reality is you're going to get to know what Andrew Abbott is, and you're going to get to know what Brandon Williamson is. And they're both going to have their time in the big leagues. And I think genuinely that none of us know which one's the better arm. I'm starting to become this Brandon Williamson stan, largely because I feel like it seems to me that he's the odd man out when everybody talks about this Reds rotation, and I think that they've just politely forgot how good he was down the stretch, or better yet, how consistent he was. He was one of the very few guys in that rotation that actually showed up every fifth day to throw the ball. Now, whether or not that continues to be a thing, I don't know. But I'm not going to sit here and suggest that he's automatically out just because Andrew Abbott had one hell of a start to his major league career. We'll find out. And I don't know who the right choice is, but if I had to say, if I was in David Bell's shoes, I would go with Brandon Williamson. Because, again, I believe that availability is a big, big thing. And yeah, I get it that some will say, well, look at Luke Weaver. He threw the ball, and he was there every 5 days, and look how bad he was. And yeah, there's some merit to that. But again, it seems to be now, David Bell had come out yesterday and said that his 4 starters are the ones that we ultimately thought they were going to be, outside of maybe Nick Martinez was one of the ones that
Correct.
At the beginning of the year that I thought that David Bell was on. And that shows you maybe how concerned they are of the guys in which are in the rotation. I thought that Nick Martinez was slotted for the bullpen 100% by the way that David Bell talked. So Nick Martinez is going to take the 4th spot. The 5th spot's up to Andrew Abbott or Williamson. If you had to pick, which one would you take?
I would take Brandon Williamson. I'm on your side. Andrew Abbott, people remember how good he was when he first came up. Same thing a little bit with Alexis Diaz, I fear. Alexis Diaz was very good to start last season. He got on a groove. He became one of the best closers in the National League. Towards the end of the year, fell apart. Andrew Abbott, without question, without a shadow of a doubt, he fell apart towards the end of the year. He couldn't go 5 innings anymore. His arm was shot. I have concerns about that going into this year. And for that reason, I'm taking Brandon Williamson. And it seems like ever since, shout out to our guy Charlie, sent the tweet out about him on that rainy day in Baltimore, he's been dynamite. Struggled at the beginning, started figuring it out towards the end. And I'll take the hottest guy up right now, which is Brandon Williamson.